Um, my question is that sometimes you have bad events happened and you try to forgive, not forgive, but forget it by just. I mean, I tried it. My example is that there was few things happen in life that I tried to forget. I gave energy to that person, saying that forgive whatever happened, and verbally and also mind through mind, but sometimes they pop up. How do you?
Well, this is what I was saying earlier to the lady back there. You can forgive that person, but it doesn't actually make any difference to the fact that the action that was done, you took it in. So it does its damage. And the action that they did, whether they forgive you or not, they have to pay. No option.
So there is no way that you get just like wipe out that memory so that it doesn't come out.
No, that's called suppression. You see, so what you have to do is, it was on some level traumatic, right? So it's like a scar of a wound in your soul. And so you have to process it. You have to heal from it. So there's a whole process of that. Because you have to understand that when something like that happens, it's very rarely the first time it ever happens. And so these wounds can also go back, lifetimes back. And so there are very deep things that need to be healed. So one of the things that I will talk about tomorrow, you can listen on the YouTube, on the Zoom, if you can't come there. And you see, they go in your subconscious and they drive what happens to you, what you do, how you do, many things. And you want to be free. So when you have yoga, one of the things yoga will do is it opens up the gates of the subconscious and all your monsters come out one by one. Not all at once, it's too much. One by one is more or less okay. So it comes up and you have to work with it, deal with it, come to terms with it, lay it to rest, having come to terms with it. It's very different from trying to forget it. It won't let you forget it. You can suppress it, it'll jump up. But you have to bring it up, see what it is, and go through the pain of it consciously, and use your spiritual powers to, handle it, heal from it, take your time, and lay it to rest. Then you're free. And it's okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm.
Can you talk a little bit about like attachment?
Attachment.
In context of, you were saying don't take things in, and some of these examples of loved ones and how you don't
Yes.
are not responsible for others, but if you're attached.
Yes. So you have your family members, your wife, your children, your parents, your in-laws, your cousins, all of these people, and you have a blood connection. And all of this, according to the philosophy of karma, you come together with these people because there is some outstanding karmic something that needs to be worked through. Some of it may be debt. Some of it may someone is in debt to you. Some of it may be that you're in not a karma bandhan, but a karma sambandh. So you just, this person is with you over many, many lives. And so you're very close to them. Now, when we're spiritually powerful, this closeness doesn't cause any suffering. But the indication of attachment is that you experience suffering through that person or from that person or around that person, or something happens to that person because you are enmeshed. So attachment is like enmeshment. And so it is said that you need to come out of that. And coming out of that happens as you start to fill yourself with spiritual power from God, because attachment also means that you are sustaining yourself from that person. That person is sustaining themselves from you, so you can't separate. But there's some karma involved, which causes heartache, heartbreak, different types of suffering about that person or around that person. It may take different forms. Sometimes it takes a form of jealousy, suspicion, all sorts of negative forms. Sometimes you can't bear to be without that person. You can't bear to be with that person. It's another problem of attachment. So it's very painful. And when you're experiencing pain in the context of attachment, this is also known as a settlement of karma. But sometimes when you're settling karma, you're also creating new negative karma, new bondage. And so part of what we learn in this study, which is taught by God, who knows stuff, he says, you connect yourself to me, and by connecting yourself with me, I will make you free, because God knows exactly how to interact with people in such a way that there is no karmic bondage. And we don't have that skill. We need to acquire it, but we gradually get it. And by interacting with God, and then you see the other person also can take their, so instead of taking your sustenance from each other, you start to take your sustenance from God, and this will loosen your attachment and let it take its time, because it takes time. One should not tear oneself apart. That is violent. It's not good, but let it happen gently, gradually, and go through the process so that your interaction becomes karma sambandh, and there isn't this bondage, but it becomes a relationship of harmony. So this is a kind of a transformation that we also learn about. And it must take the time that it must take, and that's okay. Yeah.
There are questions online. We'll take it tomorrow, or online question.
You want to hear what the questions are online? Yeah, let's see what anyone
So
wants.
from morning. These questions are from morning.
From the morning.
Morning
Oh,
session.
okay.
So what are the clues to detect a question that tends to trap you in a conversation? I noticed that you are very skillful in detecting these types of questions.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have a policy that I don't take hypothetical questions. People would say to me, look, I have a terrible problem. There's a green elephant standing by the traffic light. It changed from red to green. He's not moving. What shall I do? This kind of question I don't take. There is no green elephant. It's none of your business whether he goes or doesn't go, and he's not there anyway. So many people ask this kind of hypothetical questions. And this is because a person does not want to reveal what's really going on. And so they will create some other thing. And after some time, you figure these things out quite quickly. So, how do I detect it? It fulfills certain criteria. If something is, not really a question, or not a real question, then there's no question. Or other times, people will have a endlessly long prelude to the question, which is about half an hour. And after the first 5 minutes, I will say, "Where's the question?" and carry on. And I'll say, "Hey, what's your question?" They don't have a question, or they don't want to ask a question. They want to, but don't want to. You see. So with you, I asked you, give me a real example, right? That was better.
It was, because it also has meaning. Because I think in absence of that, I probably wouldn't have understood what you said as well as I did. It's almost like something clicked in my mind. Like personalized. And so I'm glad that you asked.
Welcome.
So next question is, what does it mean attachment to inaction on 47th sloka?
There was a motorbike. I covered over your sound. Can you say it one more time?
What does it mean? Attachment to inaction.
Yeah, so this is a quote from the Gita, right? And this is because there is a system in Indian philosophy which is called Advaita Vedanta. It's a very important philosophy, Advaita Vedanta. And Advaita Vedanta states that among many things, there is karma and akarma. And the interpretation of karma is you do an action which puts you in bondage. And they classify these actions that put you in bondage as to do with business and to do with family. And the Advaita Vedanta people are fundamentally sannyasis. And so sannyas is also mentioned in the Gita. Sannyas means renunciation. And so the sannyasis interpret that akarma means no karma. And I mentioned earlier that even breathing is karma. So you can't actually not do karma unless you're dead. And if you're dead, you will come alive again. So the aim is to go to nirvana and not come back. This is the aim. And you cannot go to nirvana if you have karmic accounts. So the conclusion is that if you don't do any karma, then you won't get any karmic accounts. Then you can go to nirvana. Sounds reasonable, but when you get into the details, you find that there's a certain amount of faulty logic in that. Secondly, when they say do not be attached to a karma, the interesting thing about the Gita is it's partly Advaita Vedanta and partly pre-Vedantic ideas mixed up. And so you get a lot of contradictions where one is coming up and then the other one is coming up, and then it becomes a little difficult to decide what the Gita is actually saying. And so then you have to opt for this side or that side. But then if you opt for one side, the other side is there. And if you opt for that side, then that. So you can't really deal with it easily. So an interpretation is that you assume that if you avoid doing what is known as karma, your family life, your business life, then you'll be free. But then one of the things that God tells is that, okay, you choose to take sannyas. That means that you are delinquent in fulfilling your social responsibilities. If you have a wife and children and you abandon them, you're incurring negative karma because you're responsible for them. And so you can't get nirvana because you're incurring negative karma, so that won't work. So if you're attached to your idea that this is how you're going to get free, which you will not get free doing that, then he would say, don't be attached to a karma. This is one interpretation, which I think is what is meant by that. But there could be other interpretations. We have another question.
Hi, sister.
Hi.
You said earlier, in explaining interacting with people and how light reflects back to you, it will always reflect back to you. I'm not sure about that. And I'm curious, because in my experience, my belief is that it won't always. I've experienced where I can see that soul. I can see those wounds. I can give light and love and regard and connect. But then I can see there's so much fear of the light. Fear in the other person, of
the other person.
receiving the light, that what you get back is not light.
That's
So-
okay. That's not a contradiction.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, it's very good, because definitely what you're saying is true, but it's not true in the long term. Because when a person is afraid to receive the light, it's because they have many blocks. And so your light, keep it shining, and it will slowly enable that person to, you know, drop this barriers. You see, I think that a person's heart is frozen for one reason or another, and moment comes when they feel the love that you're sending. When it's blocked, they won't feel it. They don't want it. It's too painful to open up. But slowly, slowly, give it time. Something will trigger the door opening. And there's an expression, you know, there's Tiburon, you know Tiburon? It's a town somewhere near here. And in there is a doctor who is a cancer doctor for children with cancer. Long time ago, I don't know if he's still there. When I was here in the 80s, 70s and 80s, it was there. And his system was, love is letting go of fear. And he used this to help kids to overcome their cancers, because cancer, from many people's angle, is psychosomatic. And it's to do with, you know, either you didn't get love or can't love, or some trauma or another, or something too heavy to bear, something like this. And so when people have all these things and they block it, it's because all this pure feelings is too painful. Too painful because the person has frozen over their pain and it melts it, right? Then you feel it. And so you have to melt slowly, slowly, gently, gently over a long period of time. Because a person can endure a little bit of pain for a little bit of time. And as they endure it, it becomes more endurable. And your continuing light, they can trust, because it's continuous over a long period of time, and it will drop down the barriers. And so, mostly this type of material, this type of practice, all of this is all about long term. No quick fix. You can get a wonderful, marvelous, fabulous experience which lasts 2 seconds. And you say, it was wonderful, marvelous, fantastic, But what you really want is something that keeps going, keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. And that takes time, because, you're opening up a big can of worms. So you have to let them out one by one. We have a question over in the back there.
So we have 5 more minutes, so. Okay.
Movie Robin Williams. Patch Adams.
So I have a question about a soul that I've come up against once before, who's in the family, and a staunch Christian that feels like she is her duty to convert everybody or change your mind. And I'm going to be facing her again. And I don't want to debate with this lady. I tried to be gentle with her. It was 7 hours that she kept coming at me, trying to convert me. So how do I deal with this?
Well, you have to understand that she will do. You already understand that. But you can set some limits and boundaries. And you can say, I'll give you X amount of time. You can say, we already have discussed this many times, and you know that it is not my intention to get converted. So you're wasting your time expecting me to be different from what I always ever have been. And so you just need to understand this at the beginning of our conversation. I can listen to you out of politeness, but I will not get converted. What do you want to do? Because you need to make it clear to her that she has fulfilled her duty of attempting to convert you, and she's not bound to make you into something that you're not, and that's okay. And she can forgive herself for not succeeding in converting you, something like that, Hi.
It seems that quite some time ago, human beings had a more developed third eye and had more close connection to divine. And more recently, humanity seems to reach towards a variety of psychotherapy practices to move forward. And not that there aren't still many methods available and operating to connect with divine, so that we will cultivate it and use our divine presence. Could you have a comment about both what the realm of psychotherapy has to offer or not to offer in this regard, and the role also of, as one wants to cultivate spiritual power, the role of a living teacher and what kind of guidance a living teacher can give one on the path of pursuing that?
Okay. When this period of time is a time when there's lots and lots of karma coming up to be settled, and a lot of it takes the form of physical illness and also mental illness. And these are, the mental illness is very much connected with trauma. And I do think that a person needs to take care of their psychological issues before they can really go deep into the spiritual stuff, because you have physical, psychological, and then spiritual. And some people are all right in the psychological side. Some people are all right in the physical side, which presumes they've already settled it or they didn't create too much. But there are a lot who created a lot of stuff that gets settled through physical diseases and through mental illness. And the psychotherapy is essential, just like any therapy for any illness. And then when you've taken care of that, you will find that there's still more to do, which you may call the spiritual stuff. And then you can do that. There are a lot of people who we encounter who come here or who meet us and who do have major psychological issues. And then we can detect that pretty immediately and suggest that, you know, it's advisable. See a professional who's good in the particular psychological issues that you have. And sometimes you have to go through several to find the one who understands you and understands what your problem is and knows the therapies that work for you. So many people who are successful in this have to go through several. Some are lucky enough to strike the right one at the beginning of their process. That also happens. And then you get to the spiritual stuff, which is more subtle. And it's, I think, very good if you do your spiritual work when you're psychologically strong. If you're psychologically fragile, it's not a good idea, because you do need to be strong to do this. This is not for the faint-hearted. Yeah. Okay, I'll talk about the living spiritual teacher. I mean, there's lots of different spiritual practices out there connected with different religious bases, and some of them are good and some of them are not so good. And in all cases, you have to test the waters and see what you're going to go with, because it's you know, it's a big shopping mall. If you want the right thing, you have to check it out. And if you think it checks out, then go with that. What else can I say?
One thing is, it takes time to find a good therapist. And what was my other question? Those who have psychological needs, they cannot detect or agree that they have to be treated at psychological level.
Absolutely,
a
this is a
comment.
big thing. Yeah, so very often you need a serious crisis where the person lands in hospital before that can get going. That happens in many cases. They have what's called as a psychotic break, or they do some violent action, some crime. And until then, there is this thing of denial. I'm fine, everybody else is crazy. That's a normal approach. Because denial is a big thing, and all of this is to do with this massive ego mask, which covers a massive trauma, which needs a proper doctor, you know. And then if you still want to go into these things in this way, then okay, but take care of that stuff first. You know, it's better. And I don't really know. There are some people who can do both at the same time, but that is predicated on that they are very grounded, very strong, very powerful individuals to start with. There's not many like that. There are some.
So at your discreet.
So thank you very much. And maybe we should just have a few moments of silence together to just allow all of these things to settle and carry them with you.